We are live. Look at us. We're doing it. Joined by Lance Zierlein. Lance, I appreciate you doing this, man. Very much so. This is cool for me to have you doing this very early on. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're putting this together. That's pretty cool.
What was on the menu tonight?
So um, it was fried rice. It was chicken and pork fried rice,
Hmm.
but it was done with riced cauliflower. So it's cauliflower
Oh,
as right, like rice cauliflower. But I swear, dude, it was incredible. It's great. She cooks it down. She's got the soy sauce in it. The texture is almost the same. She's got the eggs, the fried eggs in it. It was really good. I was super impressed.
I've tried.
It was healthy. I mean, for lunch. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I've tried cauliflower rice or rice cauliflower, whatever you want to call it. Dude, it tastes because you're expecting the taste of rice. It has the texture of rice because it's small.
This is the first time. This is the first time where I was like, man, I think she finally got it. Because usually I don't like the texture that much. I'll put up with it.
Yeah,
But this is the first time I said, shit, I'll get a second bowl.
really.
But I'm all about second bowls right now during the I have no TV to do right now. I'm like, I've been joking. I'm gonna put on a quarantine. Say, the freshman 15. This is gonna be a
Quarantine.
quarantine.
That's
Easy.
outstanding.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
already +6 at least.
I've plowed through
So
a box of Nutty Bars and a whole box of zebra cakes, and like I'm just getting fatter and fatter. What's the snack
me
of choice
too.
in the Zerline household? What's your go to
Right now,
snack?
shit, go to whatever's there. Today, you know what I was having? I had veggie straws, which you pretend like, oh, this isn't, this is healthy. It's just another, it's like potato chips is all it is. Veggie straws are just, oh, this is sweet potato. Oh, this is like, sure it is. It's fried. And I was dipping it in peanut butter. Like I was using it almost as a spoon, taking 3 pieces of those straws and then spooning peanut butter in my mouth. That's just an hour and a half before we ate. Then my son made brownies, so I ate brownies. Then I came out and played one-on-one against my son, who's a sophomore, and he beat me for the first time because
Oh,
my ass was about to vomit because I'd had so much. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, shit, I can't breathe. I'm getting balled up by a 15-year-old. I'm like, this is fucking terrible.
see, that's why I'm glad I don't have. There's for a lot of reasons. I'm glad I don't have kids, but one of them is
Let me tell you,
at some point in your life, your
yeah,
son beats you at
that's right.
basketball. He can beat you
But
up. Like
tomorrow, that shit is gonna be. It's gonna be on tomorrow.
it's not
Because I
happening.
will like not. Oh nah. I'll eat my lunch at 10 like I always do. There will be no dinner. There's no brownies. There's no scoops of fucking peanut butter. None of that shit. No snacks. And it'll be whipping his ass out on a basketball court again. And it's got to be like 7-1. Like it's got to be embarrassing.
Are you gonna like make him do a bunch of chores? You know what I mean? Like be like, hey, I need you to
Yeah.
move that wood pile from over
Well,
there to over there, and I need you to haul
but
these
look,
bricks.
he's skinny. He's skinny as shit. Here's the thing. I kind of go light on him still, and I realized when it was too late, when it was 4-1 his way, and I'm like, God
You're
damn,
fucked.
I'm out of fucking breath. I'm like, shit. Because I was killing my kids yesterday, fucking killing them. I was reining in. I felt like it was old school, Lance. I was all over the court,
High school
fadeaways,
Lance.
everything was going in. I was just like, bang, bang, bang. I got it today, and it's gone. I mean, like I said, I ate terrible, but um, so tomorrow I'm gonna have to put grown man strength on him, back him down. I'm gonna get dirty tomorrow. Like
No.
tomorrow, it's gonna be, tomorrow's gonna be like dirty boxing. It's gonna be. He's
Yeah,
not gonna like it
he's not
tomorrow.
gonna like that clinch work. Now,
That's a lock.
are you the kind of dad that let your kids win, and then there's now
Nope.
it's like, oh no, fuck that. Or were you
I've
always like,
never
no,
been
you
that
better learn
dad.
how to beat me?
Oh yeah, block shots like Monopoly, everything, everything. I have to win. I try to embarrass my kids in FIFA, in NBA. If I ever lose, I want to just come back the next time and crush them.
Did you
Like
get that
I'm
from
not
your
the guy
dad?
to.
For people that don't know, your dad coached in the NFL. Was he like that with you guys, where he's like, no free passes, motherfuckers, get your shit together?
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, I don't remember it being like me. Like I try to go that extra mile to make sure they know because I'll shit talk them too.
You're trying to
He
hurt
didn't
them.
do that to me. I shit talk. I try
If
to
I
hurt
beat
their
you, you're
feelings.
grounded. That's great.
Yeah,
But
bring me my money too.
give me your allowance back.
It got nasty yesterday. It was a 2-on-2, and first of all, we mixed it up. So it was my oldest son and my youngest son, well, my second oldest son and my youngest son against me and my middle son. And we would have been like me and the middle son were the big favorites. And as soon as Alex started complaining at snacks, like they were shit teammates. It fell apart early on. I had to like, you're being a terrible teammate. You're not even trying. I had to bitch him out. Then we switched. Once we drove them, we switched up, and it was me and my youngest, and that's our scrap. Like me and the youngest versus the other two, Alec and Mason. My 15 and 13, and it was a good like hardcore matchup. But like I said, I was in my zone, so it was splash town, just blang, splash down, splash, and I was saying splash town every time I shoot, splash town, splash
Oh,
town.
I bet they fucking
And
hated you. Oh,
they did hate it. It was, and it got nasty. Like there was Snacks was getting into it with Alec, then with Mason. I had to break up a couple fights.
Nice.
Snacks one time, my own teammate Snacks talked shit to me because I had one bad pass. I turned it over once. I'm like, I'm carrying your ass. Don't be a bad teammate to me.
You guys are like Snipes and Woody Harrelson and White Men Can't Jump.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm carrying your fucking ass. And then,
I'm carrying your fucking ass.
And then the other two are like the black guys. You got them fighting at the end. You'd rather look good and lose. You're fucking Snacks.
You know what your problem is? You'd rather look good and lose. Fuck this shit. I'm getting my gun. I'm shooting everybody. yeah. Marcus Johnson.
15-year-old. I'm going to your daughter's like, you know how many foods start with the letter Q, Billy? Oh, God, that's one of the best movies ever.
It's a great movie because you know what? So I used to play a lot of pickup ball back in the day, and I played in New Orleans. I played in New Orleans and like in the city. I played in New Orleans at the Tulane's, the rec. And we got in great games, but there was no era. There was no era of danger. Like there was no. Then when I played in a Tulane City League, that shit was like, ooh. I'll never forget. It was me and a guy named Eric Racklin, E-Rack they called him. He was a football player at Tulane, and so I used to ball with the football players. Like you would all play together in the Tulane Rec Center. Well, then during summer, when everyone went home, it was me and E-Rack. We played in this city league, and it was like I was one of the only white dudes in the whole New Orleans City League. It was like me. I might have saw one other dude, and I wasn't on the team officially, but I picked up for him like 2 or 3 different times. We went into one gym, and I could play a little bit. I hit this move, like the spin move and crossover. It was a little move, and I made it. And anytime, especially back then, like back in like 1990, if you did something like that, the gym would go fucking crazy if a white dude did something like, just took somebody off the dribble, spun them, faked them. Like the gym went crazy.
Yeah.
So, I caught a little cred then. But anyway, so we, I don't know, we won, we lost, I don't remember. So E-Rack was talking to this girl. So he starts talking to this girl so we came in my mom's car. I was driving. It was E-Rack.
I was driving mom's car.
I didn't have my own car.
That's always how the gangster stories start.
Yeah.
We took my mom's car.
So we took my mom's Eurosport. We rode up in
we rode up my mom's PT Cruiser.
Yeah.
And
we rolled up in we rolled up in a spot in New Orleans where now, if I think now, I'm like, fuck no, I would never go to the
do it. Yeah.
But then I was like, no, cool. It's just like I need to go, and everyone's gonna be this. Like now, I'm like, shit, you gotta be more cautious in this motherfucker. You can't just be reckless.
He'd be grounded. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So, but anyway, so I came. So I was sitting there at the car. E-Rack's talking to this girl, and this other dude who she's with, he comes over to my car. I'm like, none of this shit feels right. I felt like, man, something feels fucking off on this. I thought it was a setup. And I'm like, E-Rack. He's talking to her. The dude's like, no, your boy's just talking to my talking to my sister or whatever, my friend over there. And so he's like sitting over there by me, and I'm like, this feels like a fucking jack move coming. And so I'm like, E-Rack, I got to get my mom's car back. Like, I'm yelling.
Now you ratchet up the jackness.
I mean, oh
now
my
they're like, oh, fuck.
God. I know. I'm like, how the fuck do I get out of
Definitely
this?
jacking this white
And
boy
he
now.
doesn't have, and he has no care in the world.
No.
Rack is like, no,
Bro.
everything's fine. I'm like, bro, it does not feel fine on this
Chasing
end.
that coochie,
Like
there ain't nothing.
He said, why is this dude? Yeah, I'm like, why is this dude standing right by me? This can't be right. Something's got to be wrong. And all I know is we got the fuck out of there, and I was just like, man, I felt like I dodged one. To be honest with you,
did he wreck hit later? Did he get the number?
I don't know. Hey,
but I didn't take him.
Hey, if he did, that was like
he had to pay for. Hey,
that was before. Like, if you got the numbers, you had to wait till you got home. You're tethered. You might be able to bring your cord. If you had a cordless back in '90, but probably you were tethered to something. Just however long you had the cord, you could take the shit
from the kitchen to the bathroom. Oh, anyway. That's hilarious, dude. I have stories like that. I hung out with some unsavory characters, and I have several of those stories. Like, I don't even know if I've told them on air, but I had friends that we did a walk by, not a drive by, like a walk by. Like, we walked through a neighborhood because my friend wanted to go to this party and they wouldn't let him, so he decided he wanted to shoot it up. So they just walked by. And I was like, that was the dumbest fucking thing I've ever been a part. And I was just the getaway driver. I wasn't a part. Nobody got shot because they started yelling at each other. And I'm like, you can't. If you're going to be gangster, you don't announce your presence at a party. Hey, come outside. No, you just have to let loose, right? You just got to get gangster. So while they're yelling at each other, we're standing in this dude's yard across the street from the party. And I guess he heard us. He comes out with a shotgun and he shoots his gun in the air. And we scattered like roaches. It was the stupidest. I was like, I got to get new friends. This is fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Like, hanging out with stupid ass people like this. It wasn't smart, but I was.
Is that the dumbest shit that ever happened with you and some friends?
Oh, always. And I let them talk me into the stuff. Like, I was scared. I was a scaredy cat. I was scared that I was going to be, arrested. And I was like, my ass would not do well in jail. I was always scared of getting in trouble, but my friends were like, no, we have to do this. We have to make this happen. So yeah, I wasn't the troublemaker kind of guy. You?
No, I mean, I like to mess around a little bit, like get out of the, sneak out of the house, walk around the neighborhood, just feel like you got some danger. But I had a friend of mine, Mark Edwards, he was a year older. Anytime we were with him, he would do some reckless shit because he was reckless shit doing guy in high school. Yeah. And now
everybody had one.
Yeah, everyone had one. And now he lives in Greatwood, guy. But he's got some of the best stories ever are when you've done stuff with Mark. I never forget. So you probably don't know. Where did you grow up?
Jersey Village was where I went to high school. So
so I'm Richmond Rosenberg, right? And so they got a spot in Richmond Rosenberg called Mud Alley. And Mud Alley was famous for, that's where you bought dope. But that's hardcore dope buying. That's not like you regular ass guys don't go. Mud Alley was known as that's where the dope spot was. You knew about it, but you didn't fucking go there. No. Well, I remember it was me and two other friends. We're in a car with Mark. And Mark, just for fun, drives to Mud Alley and starts driving down the alley. And guys start coming out to our car. We're like, what the fuck are you doing, Mark? Hey, what you got? I don't think you wanted to. And we're like, dude, this is not some fucking funny shit. You don't roll into Mud Alley and ask guys what they got. And, he didn't get anything.
Fucking shot.
I was like, man, that's not the move. That is not. I'm like, E-Rack, I got to get my mom's car back.
Mark, I'm wearing my dad's watch.
Fitbit.
I can't get this scuffed.
I got curfew. I can't get jacked in Mud Alley. I do not want to get in trouble.
Bro, that is exactly how it was when I was real young. My sister always snuck out. She was bad. She dope, did smoke weed, got drunk, did all that shit. And she would try to convince me to do it with her. Not because she fucking wanted to hang out with me. She hated me. She just knew that I wouldn't tattle. It's like any crime. If I can get you in on it, then you can't say shit. And so
Right.
she was like, one night she was like, you want to sneak out? I was like, fuck yeah, let's sneak out. I'm a badass. She's like, okay. So we sneak out and we get outside and my mom's car is parked in the driveway. And I'm sitting on the trunk and she starts walking off. I was like, where the fuck are you going? She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, we're out. She's like, I'm not sneaking out to sit in the fucking driveway. I was like, I'm not leaving the driveway. So that's what a dork out. I'm not leaving the fucking driveway. She was like, oh my God. She goes, well, you can't tell now because you snuck out. And then she just fucking left me. And I sat there for 2 hours till that bitch came home.
So we snuck. So I used to sneak out. So we would sneak out like when I was maybe a freshman in high school. And so my brother was 2 years younger. And so we were all like me, him, John Harris, my buddy Mac Jones. We were the four that would hang out. Now, they were all 2 years younger than me, those three. But we all played wiffle ball together, basketball together, street football together, video game, everything. And so, like, Johnny was like a good boy, right?
He was the goody guy?
Yeah. He didn't do the messed up shit. Mac would like to go out. So I remember me and Mac, it was either me and Mac or me and a guy named Donnie Reed. He was spending the night at my house. My brother would crash early. He would never sneak out. He would go to sleep. So, although, let me just tell you this. One time my brother went to sleep. This is fucked up. This is how you know I'm an older brother. I had a glass. I poured milk in it, orange juice, Worcestershire sauce, mixed it up, got a straw, and as he's snoring with his mouth open, I take a whole straw of it, and like put it in his mouth. And he's like, nah, nah, nah. It's like, and I'm like, okay, Mike, you and I go to bed. Just dumb shit because that's what you did. I've told the story before. We used to wrestle in the dark, pillow fight. We used to call it bonkers, and maybe I was in I was probably in 7th or 8th grade at this time. And we would do, and I would it's literally a wrestling match in the dark. Like so you're jumping off of shit. Yeah. It's like pitch black in the room. And one time, and my little saying, if I said Superfly Snooker, that meant I was going to jump off of something and onto people. It's like my warning. And so if I said it, everyone would scramble. So I said it one time. I knew exactly where my brother was. I said it one time and everyone scrambled and I started pissing all over him, dude. I mean, it sounds terrible now. I get it.
Oh, you think?
Like a little bit. Like just a little bit. He freaked out. I've told the story on the radio before. He hates when I tell it on the radio. I've done it twice because people listen to the show and they're like, Mike.
Because they know piss on you?
Mike, your brother. Yeah. He's like, dude, I got kids at school I teach and coach who know about this.
Hey, Coach Pissy Pants.
Yeah, I know. And then he went down, told my mom, and my mom, we would not do that shit if my dad was in town. He had to, well, I wouldn't. He had to be taken off on a recruiting trip or whatever because he was a college football coach at the time. My mom went buck fucking nutty on me, as she should.
Oh, you pissed on your brother, Lance?
Yeah.
What would you do right now if Snacks comes in and is like, dude, or somebody comes in there like, hey, Snacks pissed all over me. Now, what would you do? You would?
I would be so pissed off. And I'm trying to think about my wife. Like, let's say I were out of town doing draft stuff in LA or whatever, right? My wife would probably be worse than my mom. And my mom that's one of the worst I've ever seen my mom. But so I'm glad I told pissing on Mike's story. So now I got that in.
Well, make sure this makes it on the internet. I'll put that in the description. Lance tells us, can I tag him on YouTube and Facebook? Lance tells us I pissed on Mike Zierlein story and tag him.
That's hilarious. So definitely don't do that. Way bigger than me now. But so then so Mike would never sneak out. But one time we snuck out in the neighborhood in Con Grove, right? And we went to this girl's house and we would look in like to see if she's there, the girls in the neighborhood, like, knock on a window. Well, no one's there. Like the lights are on and we see the girls there's two girls. There's one girl and her sister who we know are asleep. And so we go over and just open the back door. We were going to say, hey, we're here or whatever. Because we could see their parents. The girl's parents weren't here. Or her mom. She only lived with her mom. And we were like, I can't believe some of the shit we did. It's not that it was criminal. Well, I guess that's technically breaking and entering. I mean, that's technically breaking and entering.
I don't know where this goes, but
we just went and she had a bag full of notes, like you had in notes. And so we just grabbed them. We were reading the notes, no big deal. And then we like turned our air conditioner down to 50, grabbed all of our notes and just walked out of the house and just walked around the neighborhood reading all of our notes that from junior high, because we were in junior high at the time. I mean, just dick shit.
Yeah,
like,
that's fucking breaking and
that's,
entering. That's
technically,
yeah.
I guess it is. But here's a move that I did. So, let me tell you this one too. On a separate time that we were walking around the neighborhood, because it was always exciting that the neighborhood security could catch you. That was if we saw cars coming, we would hide. That was the excitement. We really didn't do anything. We weren't doing anything bad. We weren't doing anything we weren't breaking stuff.
Breaking and entering. And
other than taking some notes
while people were asleep.
Lowering an air conditioner, down to 50 and raising their bills.
Wow, you're such a fucking gangster. What'd y'all do this weekend? Bro, we got fucking wild. I lowered this motherfucker's AC to 50.
We went to 50. Donnie, I got to get my mom's Eurosport home. Let's go. So that's the third callback. That's it. I can't call it back anymore. That's the rules. That's the callback rules. That's the last. That's the last callback.
Oh
so anyway, so this is one. So I took my mom. I wanted to go to a party. This is my senior year. I wanted to go to a party. Mom, I want to go to a party. I didn't have a car, like I said, but she always let me use her car. Nope, you're not. You're grounded. And I was grounded because I skipped an SAT that I was supposed to go take so I could watch Rhode Island versus Missouri in March Madness, because I love Tom. What's his name? Used to be the U of H basketball coach.
Oh,
fucking curly hair.
Yeah,
God,
Tom Penders.
Tom Penders, yeah. So I love Tom Penders' Rhode Island team. Loved them. Because one time when I was pretending to be sick and stayed home because I didn't finish one of my papers, I was watching Rhode Island in like a conference tournament, or it was maybe just a game. And so Carlton Silk Owens and Tom Garrick were the two backcourt guys. And I'm like, dude, this fucking team's awesome. And I loved college basketball back then. That was my favorite sport.
Really?
Right? As a senior in high school, college basketball for sure. And so I had to skip SATs because I was not going to miss Rhode Island versus. Now, I didn't skip them. I told my mom I couldn't. I told her I couldn't find Bel Air. And I couldn't find Bel Air High School, but I also didn't try as hard. But I couldn't find it. So I'm like, got home, watched Rhode Island versus Missouri. And then I told her later, I didn't take it. And then I got grounded. So I said, I want to go to a party. You can't, you're grounded. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm like, I bet I do. So I get out of the, let me see. Yeah, I arranged for somebody to pick me up. I go into my room. I set up in my bed, some pillows. I make it all look legit.
Oh, you went fucking Alcatraz style. You went.
Oh, yeah. No, I wanted it to look legit. I close my door, and I decide, you know what? I'm going to lock my door because I can get into my door if I want. I got this little clip I can get in. So I kept it in my pocket. I walked downstairs really quietly because I didn't have to sneak. At one of my houses, I had to sneak out of I thought I had to sneak out of the upstairs window. And then I realized that's just like, I'm just doing that because I think that's some sneaking out shit. I could actually just walk down the steps and leave out the back door. But this is a different house, right? So I walked down the steps. There was no window to sneak out of anyway. So I walked down the steps really quietly. I get out. Everything's cool. My friend picks me up down the street. We go to the party. I get back. It's probably like 1 when I get back. And I come in the house, and my mom's sitting on the steps waiting for me. And I'm like, fuck. Done. And she's like, go up to your room. You're in a lot of trouble. I'm like, shit. So like a couple days later, she goes, that really looked like you. And she goes, I would not have caught you if you hadn't locked your door. Because when you locked your door, it made me suspicious. And she said, because even when you locked the door and I opened it and I saw it, I thought that was you. But I went back and double checked because the door was locked. If I'd have just left that in place, I would have been good. She told me, you would have been good if you would have just not locked the door. But you were trying too hard, and that made me suspicious. So one time
every good criminal knows not to overthink the crime.
I snuck into my parents' house one time, took my dad's keys, and I actually turned. Man, when you're chasing ass, you'll do some dumb shit in high school. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what I did, I pushed the car. So that their car, I turn it on, but not all the way on, just enough that I
Just
could change
neutral.
the gear shift to
Yep.
neutral, and rolled it down the back. I was real quiet. I started it, hit the light. I drove off and then hit the lights, and I'm good. When I came back in, I turn the lights off. I go up in, and as I'm rolling in, I turn the engine completely off. I roll to a stop, boom, and somehow I got away with it. The fact that I tried some shit like that is unbelievable to me. Unbelievable. But I'm sorry for like jacking your entire
No,
podcast
this is
telling
great.
stories
This is
about
the
this.
whole. It's not. This is what the whole point. It's just us chatting, just bullshit. This is great.
But this is one. So there was a show on Playboy Channel called Electric Blue. And here's how I know how to get Playboy Channel. Eddie Rodriguez, who is at Lamar Consolidated, when we were in freshman study hall, he told me, look, so there used to be cable boxes, right? Cable boxes, and you had to go up and turn it from the fucking cable box. Wasn't the remote control
It
until
was a big
shortly
dial.
thereafter.
It was like it had
Yeah.
all like
And
1 through 99. Yeah, it was fucking a lot of. Yeah.
So you had to make a commitment if you wanted to, like, when you watch a show, you're like, fuck this shit. This is the show we're watching because I'm not getting up to change the channel.
There
So
was
you
no
would
last
watch-
channel button if you were trying to sneak
Nah.
Showtime and watch Young Lady Chatterley. You couldn't just fucking last channel back
Dude,
to ESPN
that's
when your mom.
So what you had to do is so if I was going to do that, I would take the cable box down off the top of the TV and lay down by the TV so I could flip it real quick if I needed to.
You invented
Yeah, like,
last
boom.
channel, Lance.
Yes, I was last channeling myself like right by the TV. But
And
this
then
is better.
Switch over to like Jerry Falwell. You're like, I'm into Jesus, Mom. Why is your dick in your hands? I'm really into Jesus.
I can tell.
I can tell you have a heart on. I just love Jesus, Mom. What do you want?
So this is good. So Eddie Rodriguez tells me, hey, he goes, you know how to get free Playboy Channel? I'm like, no. He goes, you want to know how? He goes, I said, yeah. He goes, I'm going to tell you some real Mexican shit, and you're going to get this shit all figured out. I'm like, tell me the Mexican shit, though, Eddie, because I just want to know how to get this free Playboy. So he goes, all right, here's what you do. You take a folder. You take an envelope, a regular envelope. He said, you fold it in half, right? Regular standard envelope, right? You fold it in half. Then you take the top part and you fold it down like about probably about 2 inches, 2.5 inches. You fold it down. So then you take it as it's folded, and there was a top where you could slide it into the cable box. Like you could slide it, it was basically a housing where you could kind of lift the housing up, and there was a space in between where all the wires or wherever were. And he goes, what you do is you stick this envelope in, right? You stick this envelope in. Let me see how it is. So here. So I'll do it with this Nature Valley thing that my kids left outside. So you fold it in half, and then you take this in, and you fold it like that, right? And so you stick it into the cable box, and then it would pop down like that. You see that?
Yeah.
And then if you started, it would hit a wire of some sort, and the shit went from squiggly lines to everything. Like all you'd have to do is put it in, boom, start doing that, and then it was all of a sudden you're like, oh shit! I'll never forget the first time I got Playboy Channel. I was like, this is some shit. Holy shit! I got Playboy Channel, and it's not like you see like Playboy Channel had the. They didn't show anything,
like
but it
now.
was. Yeah, exactly. But it was still next level.
Bush. Yeah.
But it was next level for back in the day.
So
now I had this on my repertoire. I taught the other kids from the neighborhood like the Eddie Rodriguez shit, the Mexican shit that he taught me, and it was on. Everyone knew it. So we went to I bring that up because we knew what the shows were on Playboy Channel, right? Electric Blue was this one kick-ass show. So we sneak out one time, and we were like looking through people's house. I don't know why. We just would like, let's look in people's houses. Because I'm in fucking Texas. I could have got I could have got shot in the face. I could have got shot in the face so easy. What were we doing? This is Texas. You can't do shit like that.
Hey, let's go look in people's houses. Yeah, genius plan, Zierlein.
Genius plan. And so this dude is sitting on a couch. He's probably like 30 something. It's his house. He's a grown ass man. He's probably 30 something. We're 14, maybe 14, maybe 15. And he's watching Electric Blue on TV because we recognized like it just had you knew what it was.
You knew, yeah.
And plus we knew what time it came on. So I'm like, and we're like, so we're like, what's this dude doing? And granted, you don't want to see anything, obviously. That's something in hindsight, like, holy shit, it could have got ugly. And all of a sudden I just go, bang, 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 knock on his window. And I remember it was either Mac or Donnie or whoever had snuck out with me. We were like, shoom, we're going to take off running. Because all I could think is this guy for the rest of his life would be like, somebody saw me watching Playboy Channel.
I'm the dirty old perv in the neighborhood now. Oh,
I know. So I knew I had a chance to put some psychological warfare on some dude I didn't even know.
Destroy one man's life. That is so fucking great.
That. Like, be thinking next time you do some shady shit in your house. That's
why I always watch Electric Blue with the blinds closed. I don't fuck around.
Yeah.
I usually just get in the closet with the laptop and shut the door. There's no.
Damn.
It's the same. I treat watching porn like hiding from a tornado. I get into the nearest interior room with no windows, one door, shut it.
In a bathtub.
Yeah, I'm in the tub
with a mattress over you.
Yeah. Most people jerk off on the mattress. I like to get under the mattress and jerk off. It's so much safer for a myriad of reasons.
Phone. You got your phone. Oh, it's an alert. It's a porn alert.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Now, I always find this interesting because again, I don't have kids, but you've gone through all this as a kid, and now you're a parent with 3 boys and a girl.
4 boys.
Four boys and a girl.
3 at home. 3 boys and a girl at home, and I got an older boy.
Do you are you because you know a lot of the tricks? So are you keeping an eye out on it? Or are you like, I just let kids be kids and they'll it's whatever.
Yeah, like I don't want them getting in trouble. Part of me would not. I definitely wouldn't want them doing the shit I did, and especially living in Pecan Grove out in the suburbs versus living here in the city of Houston. It's a different time. Like, you can't do that shit.
No, especially with your job. Not that it would have been cool if your dad...
Yeah, my dad was a college football coach at U of H.
College football coach, son caught peeping Tom. Like, what the fuck?
Peeping Tom shot in the face. Shot in the face by a homeowner for knocking on his window while he's watching softcore Playboy Channel.
Oh, my
Electric
God.
Blue. Yeah,
so do you have a little more tolerance because of what you did?
Probably. I caught Drake sneaking out when he was so he had a car. This is the dumbass that he is. He was sneaking out when he was living at home. He was, how old was he? He was 17 maybe. And if you're sneaking out, don't drive home and turn off your lights as your dad is going to his morning radio show. I had a 6 a.m. show. I'm leaving at 5:33. You ain't rolling in at 5:30, you dummy. I have a morning show every day. Like, how stupid can you be?
That's
come in at 4:30, you're good.
Yeah.
Come at 4:45, you're good.
Did you have to tell him how to get away with it? Like, look, dumbass.
I did tell him how
sneak
stupid
out and go to Mud Alley. You've got to fucking
right. And I'm sure he snuck out to a girl's house. So I didn't make too big a deal. He got in trouble with me, but what I did say was, I did tell him, you're so stupid. I do a morning radio show. I literally leave from the front yard. You're coming as I'm leaving to the show. You're coming in. Like, it was the dumbest thing ever. Don't you know your dad has a morning radio show?
Think about it.
So,
like, you're.
And where was he? Was he gone all night? I don't know. I don't know what happened.
You didn't ask? You didn't care?
No, but he did get in trouble one time. Like, he had one other time where he snuck out. We found out later because him and his kid, who was really like a bad kid in the neighborhood, and who was a couple of years younger than him, or a year younger than him, but this kid was not a good kid. We found out from a parent that they all went out and they were having drinks. Drake didn't really drink much. He probably would have been about 13 at the time, but in junior high. And some girl who they were with, she got really drunk, and like they left her passed out on the driveway or whatever of her parents because they didn't know what to do. and the
Yes.
parents flipped out, and I was like, yeah, there was trouble. There was trouble
Everybody's
for
got to
that
go
one.
down for that. Yeah, if you start getting kids passed out on their driveway, everybody's got to go
But
down for that one.
what are you gonna do? You're either, I mean, you got to get her inside her house. You got to do something. I
You
mean,
got to own it at
there's
that
no,
point. Yeah.
yeah, you can't, So we
Fucking
had
dump
there
her
was
like a
trouble for
dead
that one.
body.
Like somebody at a TV show at a hospital. I don't know.
Like it's
It
like
was
a baby
something.
you don't want just at the fire station.
Yeah,
Here,
in a
we fucked
basket.
up. Yeah.
I know. So
So I have a
I
chat
don't know
open.
exactly how it went down, but that was a problem. That was
That's
definitely a
bad.
problem.
I do have a chat open for these in case people want to ask questions because
Mm-hmm.
doing what we do, we get a lot of listeners that listen and it's awesome. Um, so one Amanda wants to know if you're drinking anything yummy. I don't know why she used the word yummy. That made it weird.
What are you drinking?
I am drinking what I've been drinking for the whole week. I'm drinking hand-selected Crown,
Nice.
hand-selected barrel. Yeah, Crown Royal. Are you enjoying anything?
No, but I would have if I'd have thought about it. Lately, I've been drinking some botanic. What is it called? Botanic. Whatever the fuck that gin. It's a gin. I've been drinking a gin and tonic with cherry bitters. Kind of got a little summery taste, and then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I make my own penicillins. Sometimes I'll make different bourbon cocktails and whatnot. So, fuck, if I'd have thought about it, I'd 100% had a drink right now. I've been drinking a lot of I speak for them, but their product is legit badass. Blackland Distillery, they've
Oh,
got
really?
this awesome, yeah, their product. They've got rye, bourbon, vodka, and gin. I've got all four at the house, but I've been having their bourbon for cocktails. Man, it is awesome. So I didn't have any today because I had too many brownies and took an ass kicking in basketball. But we'll get that figured out tomorrow. I
Dude,
promise you that.
I'm not a big drinker, but when I started doing these just live, just hanging out, because the whole purpose of this is I say it's not a podcast, but people are like, it's a podcast, but I'm like, it's not.
It's a podcast, yeah.
I don't have a topic. I just live stream it. I don't do any production when it's over. I just live stream it and whatever gets recorded and uploaded is it. So I don't fucking, and there's no rules, there's no topics. I don't research anybody.
But how do you go live with that from Skype? What are you doing?
So I've got a couple pieces of software. One's called OBS, and it's basically like the control center, right? So if you go back and watch the video, you and me are side by side, and under you is your Twitter handle, and it kind of rotates, and under me is all my social media, and then our names are on top. So all that, it's almost like if you ever watched like how they do it in TV, they have the panels with all the different things, and they cut to different shots. It's kind of like that. It's the software that runs that, but it's free. And then I use some software called Mob Crush, which is a simulcast. So when I hit go live, the OBS sends the signal to Mob Crush, who then puts it on my Facebook, on my YouTube, and on my Twitch all at the same time. It's pretty dope.
Oh, that's
great. It makes it easy. Yeah, and I got because some people follow me on Facebook, some follow on YouTube, so it makes it easy to kind of get it out there. But I was just like, I just want to fuck around. I don't want to do like I had a podcast that I tried, but it was too much work. It was just too much bullshit. I was like, this to me, I just call them my live chats. It's just hanging out, just shooting. It's like what I texted you. I don't want to talk sports. Like I got Raheel coming on in a couple weeks. And I told him I don't want to get. We do this every.
Nor
day.
does he. He doesn't want. I know. I don't want to either. That's why my podcast. I haven't done it for a while, but it was pretty good. Called Off Script, and that's how it was. It was literally off script. We didn't. Eric Layden and I, we went on whatever we wanted to talk about. If we were talking Texans, we would. If we were talking Astros, we would. We would talk about Netflix shows. We would talk about times where he was in Vegas, like Vegas stories. We would do whatever, and that's how that's kind of how what we're doing now is how I like to do it.
Well,
too.
you're so like this is the crazy thing because and I'm gonna gush over you for just a second because before I ever got into radio, and you know this, but before I ever got into radio, I was a fan of yours. I listened to you every day. In fact, I'll say this to the people because I know people know you're a good dude. But this is how good of a guy you were. One, I had a T-shirt company where I used to sell shirts, and I was like, hey, remember that shirt, the damn shirt?
Yeah, with the Florida Evans. That's my wife's favorite episode ever. The damn Florida.
Yeah,
Evans.
Of course, it's everybody's favorite, right? But you promoted that for free for me one time. I remember when I had the Cage Door, which we covered local MMA, and it was a big deal for a long time. And then when I had some issues with one of my partners before AJ got involved, And I created a new blog where I called it the Complete Science, where it was MMA, because boxing is the sweet science, and I always would say that MMA was the complete science. You brought me
Mhm.
on for a segment to talk about it and promote the blog, dude. Nobody does that, and so that was so cool for me to see you just give some regular ass dude that you really just a listener an opportunity, and that's the kind of guy you've always been. Though I mean, if people listen to you, they know you talk about this guy or that guy, or you've always
Yeah,
been like that. Is it because? And I want to say, and maybe this is wrong. Correct me, but when you didn't start in radio per se, you were a gambling guy who would do a segment, right?
I was a hustler. Yeah, I was a hustler. You know why? Because here's what I think. I didn't go to school to do this. I'm a hustler. I was a sports guy my entire life as a young person. I watched it. I thought of it analytically. I read. I had a dad who was in it. But I knew that's what I wanted to do. But life just takes you in your peaks and valleys. And I had gotten married, and then I had a son on the way. I was working this full time job doing something I hated doing. This
Which
hated it,
was
and
what was it?
which
Can you
was
tell me?
mobile car care. Yeah, I was
Oh
a
yeah.
car. I sold car repairs. I know nothing about cars. I know absolutely zero about cars. Nothing.
Yeah.
And so, and I hated it. I was working about 70 hours, making about $400 a week. It was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
And so I quit, and I just said, I'm starting my own handicapping business because I learned how to handicap football when I lived in New Orleans. I'd go into this pool hall instead of class. I'd go into this pool hall, and I learned from
That's so
shady
New Orleans, by the
characters.
way.
Yeah,
That
I
is
know. I learned
so
from a guy
fucking New
named
Orleans.
I know. I learned from a guy named Pete Parmalee how to handicap football. He taught me, and he wasn't really a slimy guy. He was vice president of finance at a place called Freeport McMoran. And Pete Parmalee had the golden parachute. Like they pushed him out because he was getting older, but he just took a big buyout so that they could lower it's typical. You get somebody cheaper in there, whatever the case may be. So he taught me how to handicap football. So I knew I had this skill. I knew I could pick winners and stuff like that. And I said, this is the way I'm going to get into sports. I'm going to start my own handicapping service. I'm going to get another phone line in my kitchen of my apartment. And that's what I did. And I sent out letters to radio stations. I ended up getting on in Miami and WQAM, in Michigan City, Indiana, in Baton Rouge. My dad was coaching at LSU at the time. So I was able to parlay that into that. Matt Thomas knew me when he was at KSCV because I was an intern for Barry Warner, and he was
Wow.
running the board. Yeah, he was running the board. So he was doing a Saturday show at the time. So I reached out to him. He said, "Yeah, I'll bring you on, and we can do this." So I kind of talked my way onto some spots, and I was just hustling. I got onto 610 with Kenny Hand. They were brand new. 610
Rich
was.
Lord and Kenny Hand.
They needed
Star that was
programming.
Star 610, wasn't it?
Star
Or what?
610.
Yeah, it was
It
Star
was
610 because
Star
it had
610
several
and
iterations.
several iterations. So Star 610, and because they didn't really have much programming, Kenny Hand I talked my way on to, I knew Mike Edmonds a little bit because he had been at U of H and my dad was there, so he knew my name. So I talked my way on for like a 10-minute segment each week, and I was good enough to stay on talking about football, college and pro football. I wasn't even handicapping. I was just talking about football. So
Yeah.
anyway, one thing led to another. I would hustle. I'd call John Granado, who was doing Channel 51. Hey, I just want to tell you, I love your TV show, whatever. I want to go out there
You
and see
just
your show.
called him just out of the
Because
blue?
John, yeah, just because that's what I would do. I would just like call Channel 51. He would answer, or I said, "Can I speak to John Granado?" And he would answer, and I just talk to him because he was a regular dude.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
he
he
is.
was a guy. And so all of a sudden, I told him about fantasy football, that I was doing fantasy football too, and which was not that common in 1995, 96. And so I
That was
went
when you did
to,
it through the mail, right? Like I remember doing
yeah,
sporting
fuck
news
yeah,
fantasy.
sporting news.
Yeah,
That's
you
it.
would get it. You would do all your check marks, and you'd fucking mail it
Exactly.
off and wait. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
or
was
you had to
awful,
keep,
but
you kept your
that
own
was it.
stats. Yeah,
Oh
you kept your
sure.
own stats. So I remember, and it was just touchdown leagues, like for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But I would
Mm-hmm.
go out to some of his shows. I introduced myself. Me and Chris Solis would go. I got to know him. One thing led to another, and I think it's Kenny Smith canceled on him on a show that he was supposed to do. So he calls me and says, "Hey, Lance, can you get out here and do fantasy football segment? We had somebody cancel." I've got I've done some radio, obviously, some hits here and there, no TV experience. I haul ass out there and I do TV for the first time. And,
Wow.
I'm nervous or whatever. But so we
Yeah.
end up hitting it off, having a rapport. He has me on a couple other times. So then he ends up giving, and I was doing weekend shows on 610 at the time with Nate Griffin. And then after Nate Griffin is me and Adam Wexler, and called the Courtside Report. So basically, John was going to do a show with Russ Small,
yeah,
in the morning on 610, and Russ backed out and stayed at 740. Yeah, and John said, "Hey, Dickie Rosenfeld, who was the program director, he said, hey, can I get Lance? He does the weekend shows." And Dickie liked me because I'd picked winners, and Dickie had made money off some of my picks. Just randomly, he's like, "Yeah, partner, he knows. He got the hot shit. He knows what he's doing."
he's smart.
So he ends up. This is the dog we got for my wife.
Oh, that's the bet dog, huh?
Yeah, marathon splits.
Yeah,
this is the dog who we ended up getting because my wife ran a personal best of like 348, 347. So
and
here
you're
he is.
such a supportive husband that you were like, no way she runs a sub 4.
Hold on a second, Marty. Daddy's going to tell stories where you can't be out here. You got to go. You got to go.
Go inside.
You got to go. Here.
Daddy's going to tell stories about Electric Blue. You have to go.
Daddy's already told
Google
stories that. Yeah, she's already a Puritan.
How long have you been back there?
Oh my God!
No, I was watching. She just appeared about 5 minutes ago.
No. She told me she's going to sue Saturday Night Live because she didn't like some of the language that they wrote into the show. Like, yeah, she wants to sue them.
Darn it to heck!
I swear to fucking God, this is a real story. My son, my 15-year-old, dude, I'll go off topic, so I'll bring me back to topic.
It's fine.
So my 15-year-old's watching Schindler's List for his high school, right?
Okay.
His high school, one of his classes, he's got to watch Schindler's List, and they're going to talk about the Holocaust. So he's watching Schindler's List. It's a heavy movie.
Yeah.
He's watching it. My daughter and everyone is like outside. He's watching it in the living room. I'm not thinking anything about it. Because at this point, I don't think about anything with quarantine. I'm like, what? I don't even know what's happening. So I'm in the other room working on some draft stuff. All of a sudden, my daughter shows up, or I hear my wife say, my daughter starts complaining about something, and my wife says, "You're not supposed to be in there anyway. That show's not for children, so you need to get out of there anyway. Just go outside." She comes into where I am, the room I'm working in. She goes, "Oh, so apparently there's a show where people are naked. So yeah, that's pretty much the most terrible show." And my wife goes, "It's the Holocaust, Marty. It's a show like," she's like, "It's about the Holocaust. It's not." She goes, "Yeah, well, it's still terrible to have naked people on a movie." And I'm like, "Oh my God.
Oh my God, you got a nut on your hands.
It's a Holocaust." Like, and to her, it's naked people. Yeah, this is inappropriate.
They're flaunting it. They're just flaunting it. No,
I mean, let me tell you something. Are you familiar with Handmaid's Tale? Because
yes.
Oh, she will definitely be under his eye. She will be one of the ones who is snitching on the resistance. My daughter will be.
You got to watch her at the grocery store.
She's at the grocery store. She's like, she'll put your ass will be on the wall tomorrow.
To be hanging. Do not. If you see the Zierlein at the grocery store, don't say shit. Oh, well,
under his eye. She's the new one that pops up. That pops up when the other one disappears. She's a new one, like under his eye. Like, oh shit.
Aren't they great? No, they're not.
Isn't this? Isn't this amazing? Isn't this amazing?
Aren't we lucky?
I can't wait to have my ninth child.
Snitch in the Handmaid's Tale.
That's what my daughter is. My daughter for sure is that. So, yeah. So anyway, God. I can't have her hear anything.
Okay. Yeah, because your ass will be in trouble.
Oh my God. Yeah. If my wife says something a little salty, which she will do, my daughter just looks at me. My wife will say, especially if she's watching a Longhorn game, she'll bust loose with whatever string of obscenities. Crazy. And this is my daughter. You're me. This is my daughter. I really wish Mom wouldn't say those words. I've told her lots of times. Like, fuck.
She's like the only one in the family like that, right?
Yeah, she's total.
That's hilarious, dude. Like,
and she's a big drama. Oh yeah, but
Oh
she's
yeah.
big into drama. She's big into musicals and plays, and yes, it's like she's a snitch, but she's also like a big giant personality. So
Yeah.
it's tough.
That is
It's a
too
tough
funny.
combination. But taking you back though, getting
Okay.
back to Granado for a second, so he ended up saying, "Hey, can Lance do the show with me?" He goes, "Yeah." So they hired me to do, the morning show with John, and we were the bench, um, and I
So it
never
was
forgot.
the bench back then as well.
Yeah, it was the bench. It was the bench. We brought the name back for the second iteration. Yeah, the management at 610 changed it to the John and Lance show because
Mm-hmm.
they didn't like the fact that they wanted to put their own thumbprint. What new management came in and they wanted to change everything all around, and they
Of course.
fucked all this stuff up. And we had this great brand, the bench. Our listeners were bench warmers. We had something called garbage time at the end of shows, which we copied off of Vince Cellini from CNN. He had a talk show on TV, a sports talk show, and basically people would call in. Other people have called it lightning round, but we were the first to do this on the radio. We would have people call in and just get off whatever blast they wanted to, and then hang up. And it was like a series of phone calls. It was the last 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes of the show, and we called it garbage time. So we had, it's the whole bench route motif,
Right.
bench warmers, garbage time. So anyway, so I'm a 27-year-old guy. John's older than me, but we're still both pretty young guys doing a show. We got a young listenership. I'm hanging out with them. A lot of them were became friends of mine in general. Listeners who became friends were still part of the same fantasy league. Sean Pendergast, that's how I became friends with Sean. He was a listener of the show. Andy would call Rome Show
Oh yeah.
back then. And so anyway, when we went to 1560, we were almost 10 years at 610. When we went to 1560, it was just such a community. Like even before then at 610, I remember having a guy, they called Lesbian Craig, right? That's what we called him.
Mm-hmm.
And I had him come in, and John was going to be out. So I had two guys. I wanted listeners to have a chance to come in and do this. So I let Craig come in and a guy named Jimmy, Dr. Football is what he called himself. And he actually got on a radio.
I
So
remember that dude.
not at the time he called himself Jimmy, and he was a really funny caller on the radio. So they came in and they did the hour with me, and they both got the radio bug then and wanted to keep doing radio. But, I don't know. I was just a regular guy who got a shot. I don't think I was special. I was good at what I did. I had a personality. I learned, and really John helped me to just say, hey, dude, be you. Do the imitations, be you. Don't be a formula. Don't try to do radio any other kind of way, but do it the way, just be your regular personality. And so I just recognize that there's talent out there. I brought people into radio before. I probably brought, I don't know, 5 or 6 people into radio over the years because I recognize that people have talent.
Who did you help get their start?
John Harris. John Harris was a football coach, and I grew up with John. He was a football coach, a high school football coach in Jacksonville, and he was 26 years old, 27 years old, and I'm having him come on as our college football expert from his office in Jacksonville in high school because I knew he knew better. He knew more college football than anybody else, and I didn't give a shit. I knew he knew his shit, so I had him come on. Matt Jackson was a listener of the show, and we ended up having him come in to be like a producer or whatever, and brought him into radio. I didn't bring him in directly, but he's
But I mean, look, it's a vouch business, right? Like you go and you say,
oh yeah,
hey, we think he would be good. Yeah, of course, that's going to help.
oh yeah, no, for sure. We had I've had, so let me mix my mediums here. A guy named James McPherson, who was a college football coach. A college quarterback at Wake Forest. I had him come and write for me as a football analyst on my football website, The Sideline View, because I knew he had some talent to evaluate quarterbacks. He was one. Well, he was with me for a year, and then he used some of the write-up stuff that I had, and some of the stuff he had done already for I think he had a little bit of a connection through being in a startup league that failed. He ended up going to the San Diego Chargers, and he's been there for 5 years as a scout now.
Wow.
A guy named Tiber Overly, I brought him in to be my analytics director. He was just some smart guy from the Sloan Sports Conference that came to my attention. I brought him onto my website. A year later, he was a director of analytics for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Adam Kaplan came in. He had been fired from reduced, let go, whatever, of Fox Sports. And I said, hey, why don't you come in and do stuff with the Sideline View? We got some really smart football people here doing football stuff. And so he started breaking stories on the sideline view. It started showing up on ESPN, the sideline views. Adam Kaplan reports. It was on NFL Network. He gets a job as an ESPN insider on ESPN and was on TV for 4 years or 5 years with them, 4 years with them from that. So we had, and then John Harris, of course, was writing.
Yeah.
He's with the Texans now, but like all these guys ended up. But I saw talent in them because you know what? I got a shot, and I didn't have any kind of special background. I just, I just had talent. I
Just
firmly
hustle.
believe that. I just firmly believe that there are people who have talent and they're coachable and moldable, and sometimes they're relatable. If you're relatable to people, that's how I've been able to do radio for a long time. I'm relatable. People want to go have a drink with me or do this, or they could see themselves hanging out because I'm not. I don't. That's how I mean, that's just how I am. But for the same, but by that same logic, I want you to get your hustle on. If I have a chance to help you out, and 1560, that's all it was. Like,
Oh yeah.
granted,
Oh
it was a
yeah.
little bit inside. It was a little bit inside, maybe, or it felt like that to some people. But we wanted to take, like, you were a dude who supported us. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
support you. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to support and hook up anybody I can. And to this day, I'm like that with my boy Ryan Lashane at Riel. He's phenomenal. He's like one of the best chefs in Houston and one of the coolest dudes that you can find. And so anything I can do to help him, anything I can do to help the restaurant community here, because I'm friends with them. I got a platform to help people. What good is it if you just want to sit on your high horse and punch in your fucking time card, make your money, do your show, check out, and go home, and that's it? Either you're part of Houston, you're part of the culture, you're part of the community, you're uplifting other people and bringing people with you, or you're selfish. That's just kind of how I see it.
Amen, dude. It's funny because you don't know this. I think I may have told you this before, but you were such a huge inspiration for me on how I did radio. Not necessarily, I didn't try to copy you because I can't do impressions and voices and stuff like that. But I wanted to just be a dude hanging out. And I wanted to have
Yeah.
good, solid sports takes, but I wanted people to be like, man, like you said, I want to hang out with that dude. That dude, he's down to earth, and I don't know if I always accomplished that, but that's the goal because I listened to you and John, and that's how you were. And part of that giving back was for me. I looked at it and said, okay, what can I do to do? So that's why every Friday I feature a different comedian because I'm in that community. Nobody knows who the local comedians are in Houston, and we have a wealth of talent. So I was like, okay, one way
Right.
is for a comedian, a local comic to get his jokes played on the radio 3 times in 3 hours is a big fucking deal. Because
Yep.
I know whenever I would get anything on the radio, it was a huge. When you talked about my shirt, it was just amazing to me. And so I thought, okay, this is a way that I can do what Lance did for me, for people that I know or in the community. And dude, it's so important. So I just wanted to. I don't think I've ever told you that, but yeah, it was a big part of how I try to do things. Because it's
I've
amazing how
always
many
said
people you've
this.
helped.
No, I appreciate it. And like guys like Jeremy Botter, right? Jeremy Botter
Mm-hmm.
was the favorites, and they would play. They were like a little house band
Yep.
they were just
Yep.
they liked the morning show, and they liked 1560 in general. And so they would show up at our events and play. Well, before you know it, he's getting into this and getting into that. I'm
MMA.
not going to say that I had anything to do with it. Yeah, he was huge in MMA, but I just think that
He was the lead writer for Heavy for a long time.
a lot of places, super
Yeah.
talented. I think
Yeah.
Jeremy's super talented, but I think some people saw our way of doing things and it felt more accessible,
Mm-hmm.
especially through me and John, but also the 1560 way. Like, dude, if I hustle, maybe I can do this. I get people all the time who hit me up and say, how can I get into scouting? Or how can I do this? And how can I do that? And I've helped people. I've reached out to teams for people. I've helped people. And I've told guys, I try to help people. Try to tell them a pathway that might make sense. There's a lot of guys who are younger now that think they should step right into a paying job. It's really not how it works.
Mm.
But all it is getting your foot in the door. And if you're talented, that door will open up wider. I always tell people that if you have talent, they can coach. Like, talent can be coached or developed or whatever, because I developed it over time. But the most important thing for me is, hearing stories like you told me, it makes me feel good because, I've thought about this. Like, what is my legacy going to be when it's all said and done? I'm not really, I'm not part of the radio clique. Like, I don't have radio-y people who,
Yeah.
man, Lance Zierlein, we need to honor you with this or that. I'm
Uh-huh.
never going to be that guy. But to the people that make the most difference to me, people who have listened for a long time, people who have listened just for a year, a 20-something who's hearing me for the first time, somebody who's been around from the very beginning. I mean, you know what I care about? I don't care if radio people like me or if I'm recognized by the Texas Radio Hall of Fame. I care that when I'm out of radio or if I die of coronavirus, that people say that was a good dude. Like that was a good dude. I wanted to hang out with that guy, or I got to meet him, or he wasn't a dick at all. I saw him somewhere, or we had drinks or whatever. That means in the real world, that means so much more than the rest of the shit. I mean, it just does. That's life.
Let's be real. 97.5 and the iteration of it, which started as 1560, that was the whole point. Like you know, you weren't going to get a bunch of stuffy radio Hall of Fame guys that were winning. You know, I don't even know what radio awards are. Is it the Edward R. Murrow Award or what? Nobody gives a shit about that. I think everybody here now. You know, Palillo's the outlier in the way that he is probably the most professional radio guy.
And
ESPN.
I respect it.
Me too.
Yeah, and I respect it. That's his thing. Like, I don't disrespect that at all.
No.
I think there's lots of ways to do radio, and I think he's still really good at his methodology. But
Charlie's
he does
one of my
radio.
all-time favorites. I mean, literally.
Yeah, he went to radio.
So weird. He
went to school to do radio.
Yeah. No, he's a professional radio guy, and you were just a sports guy that did radio. Same way. I was just a sports guy. I mean, I tell the story all the time. I just went to HA and I was like, hey, you should put me on the radio. I'm pretty funny. And I know sports. He was like, bro, it don't fucking work like that. I just can't put you on the 6th largest market. Like, and he wasn't even the PD. So I had to go win Rock the Mic to get my shot. But they gave me shots. Dave Tepper. If it weren't for Dave Tepper, I wouldn't be here. You know?
Yeah. But you don't have to go to fun. And more than ever now, Barry, when I started, I was influenced by Rome. I was heavily influenced by Rome because Rome was doing something the way I would do it. Like, I didn't know it at the time, but I'm like, this is just a dude who does like regular, like, talk shit, is funny, doesn't do it the way that it sounds like on the radio. And what that did, I didn't copy his style, but what it did do was allow me to be me. It gave me a pathway to be me because he was so popular at the time. When I got in and I was a younger guy, I immediately clicked with a younger audience that has stayed with me over time and allowed me to be me. But I think guys who do shows like the way that I like to do them, and look, I can do the serious sports talk or I can do the fun stuff, either one. And that helps me to an extent. But I do recognize in certain markets, and I've talked to a guy named Jason Barrett, who is, Barrett Sports Media. He is very influential in radio. He tried to get me out to San Francisco back in 2014, and I almost left, which would have been a huge disaster. Huge. It was the best move ever staying here. But he went after me hard. But he and I had conversations about, in the Chicago market, if you're not from Chicago, it's hard to make it. If you're in Philadelphia, Josh Ennis found this out. If you're not from Philly, it can be very, very provincial. New York is a very serious market for sports talk, hardcore. But then you go to Dallas. Dallas likes to be funny. Yeah, Boston does it both ways. Houston likes entertainment, I think. I think Houston likes the entertainment more. On the West Coast, they like entertainment more. Like, you got to know your market. But I do think for guys who like to do things the way that we do it, for example, this is a direction that podcasts have gone. And because people they don't want to put on a front. They want to be themselves. And themselves means Netflix shows, sports, food, drinking, partying, whatever it is. It's none of us are just like stick to sports anymore. My whole life isn't sports. Fuck you, stick to sports. I want to, this is what I do. I don't do this.
I have a whole life. And you know what? Everybody that listens has a whole fucking life. Now, we do get the occasional, hey, you guys should stick to sports or talk sports. But those are just dudes that are trolls. I mean, you're going to have trolls no matter. But I think the large majority of the people that listen to the station want to hear everything. They want to hear sports, but they want to hear stories. They want to hear you talk about movies and TV and food and hip. I remember thinking when I would listen to you and John, you would talk about hip hop and you knew your shit. You would talk. I mean, dude, you introduced me to the Glitch Mob. I had no idea who the fucking Glitch Mob was until I listened to you guys. That was one of your bump back songs. It was like a staple.
Yeah. And I got that from Chris Solis. Yeah, I got that from Chris Solis. So, it's funny when I first started, and this is going to sound really strange now, but when I first started radio, you played music from beds that were already pre-produced in CDs, and these CDs would say sports, energetic, hot vibes or whatever the fuck, and
Stadium
it'd be,
anthems.
yeah, and it wasn't real music, right? It was
No.
music, but it wasn't real songs. And I just started introducing, like, I never forget that I played, it was a big deal for me and really for a lot of listeners. So I played Our House from Madness was an intro. We did a 4-hour show. So the first hour was Misralou from Pulp Fiction. The second one, like we would do, I put in music from Our House, from Madness, from the 80s. I had some um, like an instrumental Too Short, which there was instrumental oh no, Wicked, wait. It was Wicked. I think it was Wicked was the song by Ice Cube, but it was, we
Uh-huh.
just had to get a shortcut. But bringing in hip hop to bumper was unheard of at the time. I'm not saying I'm groundbreaking or anything, but I'm just saying that was what I was listening to. So I'm like, let me try to work some hip hop into bumper music. And at the time, there were people who were listening like, dude, what the fuck? You're playing Ice Cube on here? Like, that's, never heard Ice Cube bumper music on Rich and Charlie show or on Kenny Hand and Rich Lord or on,
Wait,
you know
wait,
what I
wait.
mean? Like
Wait, who's the
on
guy you
Mike and
do?
Ed,
Oh my God,
Ed
that's who it was.
Fowler. Yeah.
God, your Ed Fowler impression, by the way, is it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It says it's almost like Joe when he does John McClane. It just same kind of shit. But when you would do Ed Fowler reading the paper, oh, that fucking killed me because I used to listen
Because
to
that
that
was
cat.
real. That was
Yes,
real
he
shit
would
that he would
read your
do.
stats from the fucking
Uh,
paper.
and
But you're right.
he's playing Willie Nelson,
On the
right?
road
That's his
again.
intro music, On the Road Again. And so, and I'm coming back with, I'm coming back with bump
Look at the
music.
way
I
I
remember
kick
I
it.
was
I'm
bringing
wicked.
in, yeah, I've got that. I remember having Hot to Death by Everlast off of his, it's still a fucking banger called Hot to Death. That would be the opener for hour number 3. I brought in, I remember Cherry Poppin' Daddies. We did
Uh-huh.
Zoot Suit Riot was the top. Like, I just wanted to bring in different types of music that I listened to that was more eclectic and
Yeah.
bring it into the show. And then, it's stuff like that too, where people go, dude, I listen to this music too, because that's not something you got.
It's
And
so
I
funny
don't
because
know.
way back Wednesday was a thing where I was like, hey, let's every Wednesday pick the songs we love, just that we grew
Yeah.
up with, the songs that we
See,
love way back
I
Wednesday. So
love
all the
that
bumper
concept.
music is everybody has an hour and they pick the songs based on the theme or whatever. It was the same thing, dude. I mean, yeah, what you did, you're right, was so groundbreaking in a lot of different ways, and it's been copied, but it's for the better because it's made radio a ton better, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know that people look. It was all I did was I did stuff that made me feel comfortable on the show. I wasn't trying to do anything because I don't think anybody who was doing radio back then there was only 610, and then
Right.
790 came along, and then and then we had 1560, which to this day, had we done 1560 right, we had the right signal, had we had the
Mm,
right
mm.
infrastructure, 1560 would have blown. We would have done to the Houston market. If 1560 had come along in place of 610, we would have been the ticket
Oh
because
yeah.
we were doing that kind of stuff because we were finally able to do everything we wanted to that we felt nervous about doing stuff with 610. But we had awesome listeners who would show up at events.
Dude,
It
the
was a
message
total
boards were
family.
like the text line now in a lot of ways. It's crazy.
Yeah.
We all
Yep. It
developed,
was fantastic.
friends. We would all get together without you guys on the message
Think
board. I was
about
a
this.
message board guy, and we would all
This is
fucking
one
meet without you. It was fucking strange.
this is one of the things that I'm most proud of. When we talked about, like, I told you about bringing people into radio or whatever. One of the things I'm most proud of is think about this. You're friends with, think about how many people that you didn't know before
Oh my god.
1560 that you're friends with now.
Think about the fact that two of them work in the building you do. Me and Cody Stutes. We're
Yeah.
both just
Stoops is a
message board
listener.
dudes. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
both listeners. You had Val and Cajun Queen, and I'm trying to remember all
Yeah.
the
Tammy.
names. Yeah, Tammy, and
Tammy,
then
and
you
you
had
had, I'm thinking of,
Machine. Like, oh, I'm trying to remember some of these message
Timo.
boards. Yes, yes. There was a big dude, not Cody Stoots, but another. It was just crazy, and you're right. I'm friends with a lot of those guys to this day because of that. It was crazy.
Yeah. And I think that's really cool that a lot of people have become friends. My wife's friends with people who were listeners and stuff like that. So, um, that's, to me, that's a better legacy than any
Mm-hmm.
kind of anything that, to me, it's like, man, people are friends. People became friends because of a show. People you started doing radio because of a show or because of listening. That means more to me than
Yeah.
anything else. But I think it's cool that people get to do what they want to do, how they do it. You don't
Well,
have to put on a front.
no, and I don't want to keep you all night because I know you got shit to do, but because I could do this for hours, trust me, I would keep you until fucking 10 o'clock easily. But we did get text messages, or I have a chat up, and people ask questions.
Yeah.
So I wanted to read a couple of those just for you. So and where to go, John Parker? I see your other one here, but somebody want to know how hard is it for you? Well, they asked both of us, but I'm going to let you answer it. How hard is it to not curse since you curse, normally? How hard is it to
Yeah.
turn that switch on and off on the radio?
It's not hard. I've had to do it for 20 years. It's 23 years, so it's not hard. But what's funny? What is funny, though, is when I first did my off-script podcast in 2017 with Eric Layden. Eric is a funny fucking dude. I could get Eric Layden. Eric Layden could do a sports talk show tomorrow. I could host a sports talk show with him, and it would be really, really good because we have the same personality. And, I mean, this dude's an actor, but he's really into sports. He knows his shit, and he's done stand-up comedy, too.
Uh-huh.
Like he's amazing to do stuff with. But what's funny is when we did the podcast and I started cussing, it felt weird for me because I was finally cutting it loose. And people who are listening for the first time, it was jarring for them
Oh yeah.
to hear me cuss. Like it's like, oh, there was for some people, they loved it. For other people, like, I'm not used to hearing you use swear words. I'm like, well,
Your
Monty,
daughter.
get used to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but we're just dudes. Like most people I feel like talk like this. Most people curse. It's the whole when you're at work you don't, but when you're at home, everyone says shit or they'll say fuck on occasion or whatever. That's just life, and that's the beautiful thing about
Yeah.
podcasts is you can be yourself and say those words. What's hard for me is going from if I go from an open mic where I can say fuck into a microphone for 5 minutes, and then the next day I'm on air, I have to catch myself. It was hard at first just because comedy didn't have the restrictions that radio did, but now, no, I just know.
I've done it
every once in a while I catch
accidentally.
myself. Yeah.
I've done it accidentally a couple times, but that's nothing. I've caught myself, a few times. I've been able to catch myself in time, but no, it's not that hard. It's not that
No,
hard.
and
It's
Kyle
doable.
Matthews in here, by the way. He said 1560 was the best. So
Ah,
Kyle
nice.
Matthews joining us.
Kyle was awesome. He was part
Oh,
of it.
yeah. I met Kyle through 1560 as well.
Sure.
Let's see. Where was the other question at? Damn it. Where the fuck did it go? Somebody had basically asked a question. Well, that was about okay. Any tips for someone trying to make the jump from coaching junior high football to high school football? Do you have any tips for them?
Yeah, my dad started in junior high, and he ended up winning a Super Bowl. So what you do is you just keep. All you have to do is you just keep doing what you're doing, and then eventually, keep learning. Here's what I would tell you: go to coaching clinics because just because you coach a lower level doesn't mean you can't learn techniques. You can't learn other positions. You can't learn how to just be the best coach you can be. A lot of people start off in junior high football. You just all you want to do is become a better coach, learn more positions, learn technique, go to coaching clinics, network, and then try to work yourself into a high school job. And you just keep working your way up. That's all. Junior high
Yeah.
that's not a bad place to start at all.
It's almost like anything, right? Like in radio or in comedy or in acting or in any of those. The more you're around the people that are at where you want to be, the more opportunities you have to meet someone that respects what you do and is willing to help you get to that point. But you got to
Yes.
go to those clinics. They have to see you.
Have to do
they
it.
have to see, oh, this dude has snap. This dude knows what the fuck
Dude,
he's doing
How
on
did
a
I
football field.
how did I get my spot? Here's how I got my spot in radio. I introduced myself to John Granato. I hustled. I called him on the phone. I went and talked to Mike Edmonds. I wrote letters. I did. It's not accidental. I got my gig on NFL because I kept talking to a guy named Charlie Uke who I'd met. Like, hey, if you ever need anything. And then when I got a chance, an opportunity, I was super prepared. Like
You were ready.
You have to be ready. And you have to know your shit and you have to be good. But I always planted seeds. And I always tell people, man, it's not going to bear any fruit if you don't plant seeds. You got to go hustle and you got to network.
That's just it. You can't wait. No one's going to, and I tell young comics this all the time, and it really applies to anything, but Hollywood's not going to come to you. You know, fame isn't going. You have to fucking go get it. You have to go and show them why they should be fucking with you. You
Yeah.
have to go out and prove yourself to them that no one is going, hey, let's go find the next coach. Or you got to go to them. You got to be at the seminars. You got to be at the whatever it is, the open mic for coaches, whatever
Because people,
that equivalent
that's
is.
because people who have talent. So my buddy is Chris Ballard, who's the GM of the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
Ballard, and I met him because he used to listen to me and John, and also he used to listen to 1560 all the time. That's how I met him. He was a scout with the Bears. He lived in Tomball. He would listen to 1560. He told a trainer, Danny Arnold, who I also knew, that, like, hey, Danny said, I got to introduce you and Chris Ballard. Ballard listens to your show. So I got to know him. We got to be good friends. Well, any time he talks to guys, it can be from the smallest college, it can be from a high school. He gives you his undivided attention, and he's basically, as he's listening to you and talking to you, and you're meeting him, hey, I wanted to introduce myself. He's basically putting you in a Rolodex, because if he can tell you got talent and have some shit to you, then he's going to keep you alive. He even told me that. He goes, you never know where talent's going to come from. You never know where it's going to come from. His story's pretty awesome. But like, I'll give you an example. I'm watching. Have you ever watched The Pharmacist on Netflix?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a guy on there named Chris Davis, and he's the guy who worked for Purdue Pharma. He's wearing the glasses. He's sitting in a room. He's got the jacket on, and he's talking about how he was making so much money pushing the OxyContin. And he was a guy who just worked at Purdue Pharma. You can't miss him. His name was Chris Davis. He's got a
He's
little
the
goatee.
weird dude who was like, he's skateboarding in or whatever.
No, I think you must be thinking of something else. No, you're thinking of something else. This is a show that just came out on Netflix. It's 4 episodes, and it's about a pharmacist whose son was killed in a drug deal.
Right.
And he goes after OxyContin. He goes after Purdue Pharma and a local doctor, Dr. Cleggett, who's writing these prescriptions in New Orleans,
Oh,
in our
okay.
parish.
Okay. You're
Yeah.
right. I did get it confused.
So anyway, if you watch that in episode 2 or 3, this guy's going to start popping up. And his name is Chris Davis. This dude is so magnetic. You're going to see him, and he's just talking. All he is he's just a guy talking on a documentary. That's all he is. But he's a guy that I can see from a talent standpoint. This dude either does something right now where he is in charge of a bunch of people. Like, you can just see when you have that charisma. He's got unbelievable charisma, and he's just a guy telling his story about when he was a salesman for Purdue Pharmaceuticals, and he was pushing oxy to all these doctors or whatever. And he's telling his story of what happened, but you can just see, like, I'm just like, dude, that guy's got something. He's got something. You can see it in comedians. You can see it. Absolutely.
There are guys that I recognize that, like, listeners that send me jokes or make jokes or like Patrick Randall is a guy that I've even told him, I'm like, you should try an open mic. P. Randizzle is his name. That dude is funny as shit. And I'm like, bro, trust me, I recognize you should go to an open mic, because that dude is legitimately. I was talking about this with Dusty Slay, who's a comedian, and we were talking about it last night. Some people just think funny, and you can recognize they may not be polished, they may not even know how to get on stage and tell a fucking joke, but you can recognize, all right, that person thinks funny. And Patrick Randall is one of those dudes, right? I a long time when he first started listening, introduced himself, and I was watching him and reading all his comments, and I was like, dude, you're funny as shit. You should really consider doing an open mic.
Every comedian was a dude at one point, or was a dudette, whatever.
Yeah.
Every funny person was just a person like both of us are. Everybody who's on radio or TV, everybody who's, granted, basketball, football, baseball players, that's different. But everybody was just a dude who wanted to do something at some point. So never forget that if you have hopes and aspirations. But I've written down a lot of open mic stuff. I've never done it.
I
can't.
At some point, trying to get you to do it.
I know. At some point, I'm going to, because I know I've got some stuff that's pretty funny. But I've just had it, and it's like something that makes me nervous, even though I've done radio forever, and I know my stuff is pretty good. It's just not polished. I haven't done it. But what's funny?
Well, don't tell. My advice is, one, and this is really anybody, but this is, you should go and don't tell anyone, and don't take
just show up.
No, don't go to Rudyard's, but go to don't go to the Improv's open mic on a Tuesday, but go somewhere, because do you know Jimbo from 97.9 The Box?
Yeah.
Well, he did a set at an open mic, and I don't want you to be Jimbo. It was fucking awful. So, and I know you're
I don't
not.
want
You're way
to.
funnier than Jimbo. Like you've bounced jokes off me where I'm like, God, that's gonna be great.
Well, mine's
But
observational.
yeah,
I'm not gonna try to tell jokes.
and he bumped me, which I was like, and then I just went up and fucking destroyed. I was like, really, I got bumped for really, but. But just go someplace where you'll probably be recognized, but it won't be like, don't announce it, because then if you bomb, fuck it, who cares? It's nobody knows, and that's what I tell
Like
people all the time, because they want to take all their friends and family. I'm like, they'll fucking hate you because it's going to
yeah,
not be great. Just go up by yourself one night, and then if you bomb, don't tell anybody. That's it. That's the easiest way to get started in comedy.
that's
Seriously.
probably what I'll do. Because
Yeah.
I was just thinking the other day, like, for example, I make observations because I'm my dad now. My dad used to. I caught myself doing this today. My dad, when my mom would make brownies, my dad would take a knife and he would cut a fucking 1-inch strip across. So he's not cutting a whole piece. He's cutting a 1-inch strip that's like a fucking foot long, but it's only an inch wide. And I know he's thinking, oh, there's less calories if you cut it, you make it really thin and longer. And he thinks he's
Yeah, it's
getting
not as
over it.
much
And I'm
brownie.
doing the same shit. I'm like, you know what? If you cut small portions, this is like 30 calories at the most. And I have cut an
Bites.
entire row around the 10 by 10. Like the whole fucking crust is gone around
10
it,
by
all of
1.
it. And I'm like, that's maybe a piece, maybe. And it's so thin, like razor thin. And I'm like, that's this dad shit. When
Oh
you're a dad,
God,
you come up with dumb shit like that. Like, oh, I
that's
think this
hilarious.
is only one brownie for my dad. It was one brownie for my dad. It's got to
It
be
was
one brownie for
insane.
me.
All right.
Dads do dumb shit like that.
Yeah, you do. Okay, last thing, and then I'm gonna let you go. But somebody wanted
Yeah.
to know. Eric Resendez had asked, did you explain how you come up with your voices? I missed half of the stream, and that is a question that you'll get a lot, I'm sure. Is where did you come up with SEC guy and all of the.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Okay.
give it away because
So
Joel, I said how you were, Jimmy the Hatchet Valley, and he was like, you just probably destroyed. You just basically told people there wasn't that about Santa Claus. Like you just fucking ruined it. I was like, I don't think so. Did
so
I?
here's the
I
thing.
mean, are people?
No, no.
I remember. No, let me tell
Every
you.
once in a while. Every once in
Let
a
me tell
while.
you the God's honest truth, Lance. I was listening when you first did. It's Jimmy the Hatchet Valentine, right?
No, it's Tony.
Tony the Hatchet Valentine, whatever.
Yeah.
My bad. When the very first time you did it, I was fucking livid. I was listening. I was just a
You were
listener,
supposed to be. Yeah.
and you did it, and I was like, "Who the fuck is this? This is off." I was pissed. I
So
was
let
just
me tell
like,
you how
"This is
that came
the
about.
worst person ever for radio." And then the next time I was like, "Oh fuck!" And I didn't even recognize it was you, but I was just I
Now my
got it that it was a
voice.
bit. I was like, "Holy shit, that is genius!"
So here's how it came about. So here's another guy got in the radio. Chance McClain was a listener
Yeah.
of me and John, and I noticed that he used to send faxes and then emails, and we were like, basically, I just said this guy Chance McClain is really funny. He's really clever, and so I said, dude, we should get you into radio. So I introduced him to the guy who was program director, one of the guys who kind of screwed up as program director at 610. But I introduced him to Bill Van Rysdam, and Chance ended up becoming. He recognized his talent. He did all these funny radio. He did all these funny parody songs and all this, and I just recognized he had talent. I'm like, you need to be on the show somehow. And so basically, we got him in. He became assistant program director, and then he came over to 1516. Was a huge part of what we did there. That was another guy. I just saw he
Huge.
had talent, and I just wanted
Chance
to get
and
him in.
Frank. Yeah.
And then he did the rest. He did the rest.
Yeah.
He introduced me to Frank. Well, anyway, so SEC guy came because I was making fun of Hootie Johnson and the Masters is when I first was making fun of it because they didn't want to have any female, no one who was a female could play. So I start, and then they had SEC, and I did a Hootie Johnson at one point that was really kind of the beginning of SEC guy. And then there was SEC Media Days, and there was some dumb SEC shit that was in there.
Yeah.
And so I started doing I'm the SEC guy. It's on 610. I talk real slow like this, like Foghorn Leghorn. And when you got South Carolina, and it was really to make fun of kind of the SEC. But then when I introduced it to 1560, we had great hosts who could, like Sean and John were great at playing
Bringing you
around with
on.
us.
Yeah.
They understood how to peel the different, peel the onion, so to speak. My character began to have different levels. I created backstories. I would work on backstories. I said, I got to find out where SEC guy was from. So I'm searching for the perfect demographics in Alabama, and I came up with Mooresville. So, and that took like an hour and a half of searching.
Time researching. That's
Yes,
outstanding, though, dude.
I
That is
created a
dedication to the fucking
genealogy.
craft.
No question. I created a genealogy of
Genealogy
his
for a
of his
fake
kids,
dude.
his grandpa. But I was in character. When I would go in
Yeah,
character,
that's
I
acting,
listen
though.
to it now and I'm like, dude, this was so good. I could never do it now. I was sharp, I was clever. I can do it, but it wouldn't be as good because I was so in character back then. I had a whole backstory that I lived. Well, anyway, that's how SEC guy came about. Tony the Hatchet Man Valentine came about because Stu Feiner didn't pay 1560 money for advertising. I got a call from Chance. He goes, "Hey, dude,
What?
do you think you can?" Yeah, he either called me or came to me personally and said, "Hey, do you think you could do a fake handicapping guy? We want to basically make fun of Stu Feiner." And I said, "Yeah." And I started thinking about it, and I said, "I've heard these guys all the time,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I know exactly what they are." I
You hung
said,
out with
and
him,
I
I'm sure,
came up
doing
with
what you did.
yeah, no, not those scumbags. I didn't, but I listened on the air. I did
Yeah.
actually know a couple of them from like early when I started doing pigskin sports. But anyway, so I came up with Tony the Hatchet Man Valentine, probably because there was a wrestler named Greg Valentine.
Uh-huh.
Valentine. I thought Tony is got that kind of, and then the Hatchet Man.
Yeah.
That's so
Something
handicapping.
tough.
So I started working on a voice because I wanted to disguise it and I wanted to trick people and I
Mm.
wanted to be a bad handicapper. So the very first time, you know, so right now my Tony the Hatchet Man voice is right here. I'm doing Hatchet Man. It's perfect right here. But when I first started, I was very low and I did it like this. Listen, you got to understand something. When you got a chance to go. So when I did that, I was handicapping, but I was giving out like not great pick. I was giving out really obvious
Stupid.
picks. I
Yeah.
was getting the names wrong of coaches who were already fired, and I was saying players who weren't there. Like I was doing it straight up for the most
Yeah.
part, really doing a total parody
The
of those
Matrix.
guys who are on the Saturday
The
morning
Matrix
shows.
of information.
Yes. But not, at first I didn't do that. I was trying to play it straight, and
Yeah.
at the very end I was throwing in some shit that people would go like,
The fuck?
this guy's terrible. He doesn't know it. And then out of nowhere I came up with 1-800-676-5200. I don't know where the number came from at all, but I had that. So
I
I
wonder how
had
many
enough.
people called that because of you.
They got
I
pissed.
should.
I had
Have you
enough
ever
screw
Googled that
ups.
number just to see what it is?
It just rings forever.
Oh,
At
you
least it
really? You
used to
called
ring
it?
forever. Yeah, it just rang forever. So people were pissed off like you about who
Oh.
is this idiot? He didn't know anything. He didn't give any winners. He kept saying he was going to give us winners, and then he'd tell us that And so the more I did it, the more I would let people in on the bit. If you were
Slowly.
sharp enough to pick up on it, I'd fuck it up a little bit more. I'd give things away. Listen to me. I got the very best. We got games that are unbelievable. We got a platinum club. And when you sign up, I swear to God, we got guys right now on the inside who know exactly what's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers locker room. This is how easy it is for you to make money. We got guys there. They know Ben Roethlisberger. They know all of the guys, Antonio Holmes. And then people are like, fucking Santonio Holmes. And, as long as I said Antonio Holmes or shit like that, people would go bananas like, this guy's terrible. You got to have him off of there.
Oh.
And
God.
eventually, but people I do pride myself in the fact that people don't catch that's my voice.
No.
I fooled a girl named Christine Weems, who's actually a local county judge now. Christine Weems was part of an acting troupe, and she was a listener of my show at 790. And I saw her bio on Twitter that she was an actress and had an acting troupe. I said, hey, I'd love to do something one time. I'd love to just get out of my comfort zone. I felt, at 790, I felt stifled. I wasn't creative like I
Right.
wanted to be. And so that was my chance to get some creativity. And this was
Is this the one you
this is
introduced
actually
me to?
year
Is
one.
this the one you introduced me to?
Yeah, 5 Minute Mile.
Yep.
Yeah, same one. 5 Minute Mile. You went to the Smattering, I think.
Yep, the Smattering.
So
Yep.
anyway, so I'm there and we're doing our first 5 Minute Mile, which I had an amazing cast. I had the most fun doing that. These 5 minute plays, and Christine was like, "Yeah, we were talking about radio." She goes, "I cannot stand that guy from New York that you have on. he is the biggest jerk and all that stuff. And I finally broke it to her that that was me. She had no
That
idea,
is
which I
so.
prided myself on the fact she didn't know that. She goes, Lance, I can't tell you. I hated you so much as him. She goes, he always had bad information. He screwed up people's names. I'm like, that's the bit.
It's
That's the
so,
bit.
and I have to commend you because it is one thing to come up with a character, and it is one thing to do the voice, and it is one thing to come up with all that shit, but then to not give it away. And
Yeah.
now just me, maybe not you, but I feel like that's the hardest part because you're so proud of what you've done that you kind of want to be like, nah, that's me. But if you do, it
No,
fucking ruins it. And that's the best part is you never gave it away. And I mean, literally, people were living. You'd be like, yeah, that was Tony. Yeah,
can you believe he said that? Or when I did Mac Brown, some guy who was listening on 610 was mad that Mac Brown said there was no blitzing in a bowl. He didn't know there's blitzing in a bowl game. And if Steve Spurrier tried to take his job, he'd slap him across the face. Like, what kind of classless guy is this? Mac Brown said he'd slap another person in the face. And how do you not know that there's blitzing? And I'm like, I said, it's unbelievable, isn't it? What an unbelievable thing for
You're
Mac
like,
Brown to
you
say.
dumb shit.
I still got that one, but you know what?
Oh, that's so
The
funny.
Hatchet Man thing, I got to give, especially Sean Pendergast a ton of credit because Sean laughed and I could hear him laughing. Like the more you laugh and get amused, the host, the more I play. Like the harder I go. If I can start making you laugh, or I can tell you're enjoying it, it's like I want to keep on punching. It's like a comedian.
Uh
If you
huh.
get somebody on the ropes,
Oh
you
yeah.
feel the momentum
Yeah.
and you want to roll downhill with the momentum. It's the same thing with one of my characters. And so when I have a lively host who can pick up on and or ask questions that allow me, to come out of my shell, or he picks up on something I said and I get to keep improving, then it's, kind of a yes and.
Yeah.
It allows me to keep going deeper and deeper. And Sean was really brilliant, specifically and John Harris was good too, but Sean really understood. And then I knew he liked it. I knew he was laughing and having a good time. So it made me go further and more like ridiculous. I'd go more and more ridiculous with the stuff I said. I came up with concepts that were just, creative backstories. And only at 1560, really, frankly, could you have a backstory for characters that you could keep playing on. SEC guy has a lesbian daughter that he refuses to believe that she is. She's just played catcher, college catcher, and softball team. She's got a boyfriend named Philippe. They live in Montrose. Like,
It's just
and
fucking
he doesn't
ridiculous.
want to admit it. He's not in on it. He doesn't know, but all the listeners in Houston know what the truth is.
Oh, that's so
That's the
great.
fun thing is at 1560, we were able to keep going with these layers. And every time I came on, there was already an understanding of, and it's probably not the best for radio. You're supposed to reset and reset, but it was, I don't know. To me, it was more fun that we had certain things established. Kyle Manthe was a big part of, whenever SEC guy, he would play I Kissed the Girl, Katy Perry,
Yeah.
I kissed a girl. And he would play that music while SEC guy was on at the very end. And SEC guy would get all pissed off at Kevin, which,
Yeah.
SEC guy never had anyone's name right either.
Oh
You,
yeah. That
you
was.
didn't know. You
Yeah.
don't pay attention. None of my characters seem to know names right.
Get
So
the name.
kind of a little bit of a giveaway.
But it's so funny, dude. Listen, Lance, this was such a treat on so many different levels. And I know it was a pain in the ass because I know you were super busy with the draft. But I do appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I know all the listeners that tuned in and got to hear kind of the inside baseball on some of this stuff. Appreciate it as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
dude. Thank you so much, man. I really
Yep.
appreciate this.
I enjoyed it. Thanks, man.
All right, guys, that's Lance Zierlein. Follow him at Lance Zierlein on Twitter. Appreciate it, dude.